Good morning. And I got to tell you though, the little picture that we have to take before we start a video, that's often the hardest thing for me to do. So crazy. Anyways, I wanted to talk to you first off about some growth numbers we saw coming out of China. And I think a lot of the headlines are going to be like the one that I used, talking about the slowest growth in 27 years. Actually, since Q1 of 1992 to be specific. And their economy grew at 6% even, or 6.0. And what would the U.S. give to grow at 6%, right? I should have looked that up, but I'm sure it's been decades, probably since the end of World War II, where we have seen that kind of growth here. Now, one could obviously argue the number is dirty or manipulated or whatever. What I'm going to say to that is, I don't know. I'm going to guess it's the same kind of manipulations they've had for 27 years, and my guess is they probably don't want to post a number that's the worst in 27 years. So the fact that it went out is probably pretty telling. So the other thing that I get from this is, it should be clear to all of us now that this trade war is hurting both sides. Maybe we see it more here, right? We've done plenty of talks about the end consumer potentially seeing upwards of $1,000 impact. We've seen the farmers in the Midwest, specifically soybeans suffering, and maybe we see a lot of the, I don't know, issues here. I think it's clear now. Just at a high level that the pain is at least as bad, if not more, in China. So, what I go with that is, I think both sides want to end this thing. I really do. Although it's now been 7 days since I did that kind of cautionary video last Friday, where it sounded like both companies were saying at the highest level the deal was done. And then it got walked back a little bit saying, well, a structure is done, but nothing has been signed yet. So I did post yesterday, I think it was, that they had a timeline of 3 weeks to write it. I guess that makes sense. Two largest economies, lots of things to work on. Probably, I just can imagine like lawyers in the room arguing over words. So I get it, right? So we got 2 weeks left. It does seem like, again, 7 days, nobody's thrown a jab or a punch to kind of reignite that. So it does seem like, again, after 7 days, that both sides want to get this done. I think the phase one will be helpful. It'll show that there's intent by both sides, and hopefully we get the big one done by, I don't know, summer or I guess early fall next year. So I think that's good. I think that's heading in the right direction. I do think it's odd that we positioned 6% growth as bad. Um, that's pretty significant. So in the end, I think it is. Both sides need to get this deal done. Both sides want to get this deal done. Neither side is throwing those jabs. So I think we're heading in the right direction. The UAW GM strike seems to be heading the right direction. What I read is it looks like they were really arguing or negotiating over the closure of 4 plants. Let's see what this says. China is waiting for elections. Yeah. Well, I think both sides are waiting for the elections. I think there's some arguments to be said that the current administration wants to hold an agreement right up until the election, and then obviously the other side may want to negotiate with a different party. I think you can look at it from both sides. So I think both are true. I think it's a global negotiation, and one side's leader doesn't change. So we have the opportunity to make a change every 4 years. So they can use that to their advantage for sure, and they should, right? This is negotiation, it's chess, right? So use all the advantages you get, I guess. Where was I? Oh yeah, so UAW GM strike was really down to the closure of 4 plants. It looks like, again, what I read this morning is the current proposal going for vote. 3 plants are still slated to close. The fourth plant, quote unquote, has been saved. What I read is they're eyeing building or manufacturing an electric truck, which I didn't even know GM had. So news to me. I guess I'm not a truck guy. So it looks like and then they got more, I don't know, not pensions, but more kind of pay for the employees affected. So it looks like they think that's the best they're going to get. So hopefully we see resolution over the weekend and we can get, 50,000 people back to work, not to mention all the other kind of trickle down jobs. I'm sure it's impacted 100,000 people by now. So, oof, watch out. The next thing to talk about is WeWork. It's funny. I remember the first time I talked about WeWork way back when these daily updates started. It was like, wow, this company's going to go out. Then we saw some cracks with Sam Zell talking about this business is basically crazy and has failed every time it's been tried. And now they're weeks away from running out of cash. Think about that, right? They were on cusp of a multi-billion-dollar valuation via an IPO, like days away, and now they're days away from being broke. Just crazy. Yes, there are negotiations with their largest lender, SoftBank, and others, um, but it just goes to show you, right? This feels so .com bubbly to me, right? If you don't remember that time, there were time when people valued companies based on how many people went to their URL. It was called the eyeball statistic. And the more eyeballs you had, your bigger valuation. And again, eyeballs don't cut checks, charge credit cards, right? But it was not a good time to be an investor because there was the up and then the huge crash. So again, this impacts a lot of folks. They're going to cut at least 5,000 people. They're going to restructure things. They're bringing people in to say yes, it's a real company. This is spin time. It wouldn't shock me if WeWork's bankrupt, frankly. I'll just put it out there. I don't know anything, but just given the toxicity in this, and yes, that's pretty crazy given the billions of dollars invested by SoftBank and the like. But at some point, they're going to look at themselves in the mirror and go, okay, bad investment, cut our losses. And yeah, so I think WeWork is going to be a case study. I mean, literally, they were days away from an IPO, and they could be declaring bankruptcy by Christmas. That's crazy. So that's going to be interesting to watch. I honestly hope I'm wrong. I don't want to see anybody suffer any of that, but sometimes we need to be reminded that the economy is real and you got to make profit. So in the end, there we go. Then the last thing is I read something from Larry Summers. He basically positioned that what if the world went to zero rates, right? The European Union went there in 2014. Japan followed in 2016. His proposition is when, not if, the U.S. economy hits the next recession. He's not declaring we're going to, but just says when it happens, because it will some point. The U.S. will go to zero or negative. What happens then? And really, what I got from his article or his position is, could we ever get out of that? Right, meaning the global economy. If interest rates for the world are at zero or slightly negative, like where do we go from there? And what happens longer term, right? Because you're no longer paying people to save, rewarding saving. You're kind of so skewed the risk measure that his position is this could really be poison if the global economy is at zero or slightly negative rates. So I think it's interesting to think about. What would you do? What would you do if rates were zero for the next decade? What would you do different? Right, you earn nothing in the bank, savings, checking, nothing. And heaven's sake, you had to pay money. Oh my God, what would happen then? I don't know. I think that's something to think about. What would happen? What would you do different? And that's going to be the question of the day. All right, if you're watching this, do me a favor, leave a comment below. You could think about it for a while because I have to. I'm not sure what I would do. I guess I know what I would do. I would refi as much debt as I can. I would go into debt as much as I could. Yes, $11,000 signing bonus to end the strike. Yep. I'd say it's going to end too. That's a good point. Here, sign here. Here's $11,000 for your vote. It's probably a good point. Thanks for the comment. So back to what would you do if rates were zero for a decade? What would you do, right? I think the only answer for me would be go into more debt. I, I I'm just not sure, right? I think go into more debt, conservative. That's who I am. Cash flow as much as you could, buy as many assets as you can. Certainly reduce my cash balance. That's for certain. So I don't know. That's something to think about. Leave a comment below. What would you do if rates are zero for the next decade? I look forward to hearing what you have to say, and I will talk to you all tomorrow. Take care. Bye.